You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It was officially announced that former WBC featherweight champion Sky Nicholson will be returning on the undercard of Wiley versus Dib opposite the ring, Delhi's own Urvashi Singh next month on the 23rd in her native Australia for what is just the second time in her professional boxing career she will be boxing on Australian soil, sporting a professional record of 13 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 2 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 14 professional bouts. To India's own Urvashi Singh, who sports a professional record of 12 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 7 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 15 professional bouts.
Yoga, fire!
Last in action in September of last year, opposite the ring, Samwang Sawing-chai, who Urvashi stopped in 3 rounds in a contest scheduled for 6. It was the only fight that Urvashi had last year. She's been boxing once a year for the last 2 years. To Sky Nicholson, who's been a lot more active, she boxed 3 times last year, and she's already boxed 2 times this one. Once in March, then again in July. Now she's boxing again in August. She could end up squeezing in 4 fights before this calendar year is out. She made her super bantamweight debut in her last fight opposite the ring, Carla Gonzalez, who she stopped in 2 rounds in a contest scheduled for 8. So she made her super bantamweight debut and in some ways debuted a new style, a different style to her long-range outside fighting. She was a lot more aggressive in her last fight than what we're used to. Sat on her punches a bit more, spent a bit more time mid-range to inside, though because the contest only lasted 2 rounds. I feel like that's what makes this fight possible, that Sky wasn't out there for very long, didn't suffer much of any wear and tear throughout the course of the fight, so this allows her a quick turnaround, a chance to get back out there and do it all again, work on that new style.
Yoga, claim.
Though I will say these opponents, Carla Gonzalez, Urvashi Singh, are in some ways a step backwards for Sky Nicholson in terms of quality of competition. This is a fighter who beat a former champion in Sarah Mahfood, took to school an unbeaten up-and-comer and Raven Chapman. Carla Gonzalez, Urvashi Singh are not the same caliber of opponents that we're used to seeing Sky fighting. I can only deduce that they're not just trying to ease her into activity in the super bantamweight division, but they're allowing her a safe environment to work on that new style, on working on her inside game and being more comfortable fighting on the inside, because in many ways that's what costed her the Tiara Brown fight. The Tiara Brown was outworking her on the inside. Sky didn't want to let her hands go. Now seeing her being more aggressive and stepping into her punches, spending a bit more time in the pocket and, actually going for the knockout, it would seem that Sky is trying to develop in that underdeveloped area. She stopped Carla Gonzalez. Is she going to stop Urvashi Singh? Urvashi has never been stopped. She's lost 3 times, but she's never been knocked out, so it would be a sort of nice feather in Sky Nicholson's cap if she were the first to do that. Often associated with finesse fighting and fence and fiddle fighting, Sky is showing a bit more spite and a bit more spice. It looks good on her. Being an outside fighter, an outside cutie pie, is only going to get you so far. It's going to work on some opponents, but not with others. So Sky does have the right idea. I do like this more aggressive, fan-friendly Sky Nickelbag. It's Nicholson. Jack Nicholson. Look for the ring return of Jack Nicholson next month on the 23rd on the undercard of Wiley
versus Dib.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, it was announced yesterday that Jaron Ennis signed an extension with Matchroom Boxing. Apparently, the Eimantas Stanionis fight was the last fight of his existing Matchroom deal that he has now extended. And it was a good idea. Jaron Boots Ennis has signed a long-term, multi-fight promotional extension with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing on DAZN. The Philadelphia star first penned a deal with Hearn in April of last year. Hearn promptly announced a plan for Ennis to become undisputed champion at 147, 154, and 160. Ennis held only the IBF welterweight title at the time, but in the immediate aftermath, Ennis's career, one of limitless promise but few defining fights so far, continued to stall. In July, Ennis stopped David Evanesian after 5 rounds but ate several sharp right hands through uncharacteristically leaky defense. In November, he and Hearn found themselves cornered into a mandated rematch with the Ukraine's own Karen Chukadzian, whom Ennis shut out the year before. Ennis won another wide decision, but looked less impressive than he had in their first fight. The outing sparked a number of theories, a difficult weight cut, a lack of motivation, but everyone could agree that Ennis seemed no closer to landing a big fight than before. This April, though, Ennis unified 2 of the welterweight titles with a clinical stoppage of WBA champion Eimantas Stanionis. In addition to crowning him the clear 147-pound king, those 6 violent rounds silenced Ennis's doubters and generated significant momentum. Ennis, 28, has now moved to 154 in search of bigger fights and more titles. If becoming undisputed champion in 3 weight divisions is still far off, becoming the lineal king of 2 might now be within Ennis's reach. So why did Jaron Ennis look better against Eimantas Stanionis than he did against David Evanesian 2 fights before? I would say it's because with Eimantas Stanionis, he was not subject to the IBF's 10-pound rehydration cap. In every IBF title fight, they're subject to a rehydration cap unless there's more than 1 alphabet title on the line, like what we saw in the Stanionis fight. So that allowed Ennis a bit more wiggle room. Because that rehydration cap is waived in unification matches, that might explain why Ennis looked a lot better in his last fight than the 2 before that. I'm delighted that Jaron Ennis has committed himself to Matchroom and DAZN, said Hearn. Since we started working with him last April, we've proved together that he is one of very few fighters in the United States that can draw huge crowds in an arena. With 3 events we've staged, with Jaron pulling in well over 30,000 fans and at the gate, and that's added big numbers on DAZN. I'm so excited to see Boots set about the junior middleweight division, where you are going to see a different beast and his full arsenal on display. He's gonna need it. The junior middleweight division is a lot more deep and a lot more perilous than today's welterweight division. For God's sake, Rolly Romero's got a title in today's welterweight division. And where Jaron Ennis may be a particularly big welterweight, he's not so big at junior middle. There are some big boys up there. Sergey Boachuk, Sebastian Fundora. The height advantage and length advantage, and in some ways the weight advantage that Jaron Ennis has benefited from as a welterweight is not that big a benefit at junior middle. Still, he's decided to re-sign with Matchroom, what I think was the right decision, though some people, they're not happy about it. They're not happy to hear it. One guy in particular who goes by the name Uncle Pete said, re-signed as in renewed his deal, a multi-year extension. He doesn't need Eddie. Eddie was doing a poor job anyway. Boots is a bad businessman.
Eddie was doing a poor job.
Boots was the hottest fighter in boxing. He could have formed his own eponymous promotional company and hired an attorney like Josh Dubin to handle the contracts, and nothing would have changed.
Okay, smartass, then why didn't he? If it's that easy, then why didn't he do it?
That signing bonus that Eddie gives you is peanuts. Bud Crawford learned that the hard way when he renewed his deal with Top Rank. You give away millions in the back-end money and other perks that come with being a promotional partner.
A promotional partner. As a promotional partner, what percentage of the risks of putting on a show was Bud Crawford going to take on?
Promotional partner. As a promotional partner, what percentage of the finances were going to come from Bud Crawford? Because it takes money to make money. You have to put up money if you're going to be a promotional partner. Uncle Pete continued, DHP Promotions, Devin and Bill Haney, sent the welterweight champion a contract. They're dictating the terms to the welterweight champion, Brian Norman, without being signed to any major promoter.
You know what they're not doing? They're not paying for any of it, because DHP is not a real promotional outfit. They don't have a stable of fighters. They haven't brokered a broadcast deal with anyone. Devin Haney is only a promoter in name, not in practice.
Point me in the direction of the last DHP show, the last DHP card that Devin Haney promoted with his Devin Haney fighters.
What fighters?
Point me in the direction of a fight that Devin Haney promoted, because near as I can tell, he's just another fighter playing with house money. Turkey El Al Sheikh promoted his last fight. Turkey El Al Sheikh is promoting his next fight and paying for it. Devin is not a promoter.
The contract that you claim he sent to a welterweight champion wasn't sent to him by Devin Haney Promotions. It was sent by Turkey El Al Sheikh, who's paying for all of this. See, this Uncle Pete guy,
This is one of these guys that likes to carry on about entrepreneurship and being your own boss, when anybody who's anybody that actually is their own boss and runs their own business knows that that's more work.
that's just more work.
Work that Devin Haney isn't doing, since you're using him as the poster child of entrepreneurship and how to go about things. Devin is not a promoter. He may have a promoter's license. He's a promoter by name, but not by practice.
And this is what you think Boots should have done. Don't re-sign to Matchroom. Go into business for yourself. Take out a promoter's license. Hire an attorney to read through the legalese.
So that you can end up boxing on somebody else's shows anyway. So that you can end up boxing on Turkey's shows, presumably.
This is what you call going into business for yourself.
Near as I can tell, you're still relying on somebody else's money to pay you. You're still relying on somebody else to promote a show and put it all together. You still are. Whether it's Matchroom or Riyadh Season,
He would still be relying on somebody else to make things happen in a situation like that. Even if Boots did it exactly like this Uncle Pete guy says, you'd still be at the mercy of someone else.
he says that Eddie Hearn did a poor job with Boots. Eddie's the one who actually brought him back to Philly.
Why didn't Showtime do that?
The whole time he was there boxing on Showtime, on PBC shows. It never dawned on anybody that maybe they should get him a homecoming fight in Philly, where upwards of 8,000, 10,000 people came out to see him fight every time Matchroom brought him there. Though according to finance expert Uncle Pete, Eddie did a bad job as opposed to the job that PBC and Showtime were doing before.
Having him box in Minneapolis at the Armory in front of, 3,000-4,000 people at best.
On undercards at that. Buried on undercards. How many shows did Boots actually headline while he was boxing on Showtime? And he says that Boots is a bad businessman, when it seems that Boots made a wise business decision, staying in business with Matchroom, that empowers him to not only box on Matchroom shows that he would likely headline, but to also participate in Riyadh Season shows if he wants to. It gives him more options.
This guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
I mean, by every quantifiable metric, Eddie Hearn has done more for Boots with 3 fights at Matchroom than the PBC and Showtime did the entire time that Boots was there. And he was there for years.
Never dawned on anybody that they should get him a homecoming fight in Philly, where they're hungry for big-time boxing, and that was evident in the numbers, in the turnout for Boots' fights.
So why is it that there's a particular section of American fight fans that are always advocating for free agency when free agency isn't all it's cracked up to be?
They like the idea of being their own boss, even if free agency doesn't really mean that. Oh, granted that when you're a free agent, you're not attached to any promotional outfit. What that also means is no promotional outfit is attached to you. They've no obligation to do business with you on your terms. You're just out there
getting whatever you can, and Uncle Pete's solution is to box on Turkey shows. Go into business with Turkey, because Turkey's not going to tell you what to do, right? Turkey's not going to tell you who he wants you to fight.
Oh, Turkey will pay you, and he'll pay you well to fight who he wants you to fight.
And if you don't want to for any reason, you can hit the road. You can hit the bricks.
Does that sound like you being your own boss?
I said it weeks, months ago that Boots going to Matchroom lost him some fans. Some people out there were never happy about that. Some people that still linger, throwing shade whenever they can. People that don't know the ball from the bounce.
Seriously.
Because free agency is not the answer in every situation. Men's super middleweight news. Edgar Berlanga is still pushing the idea that Hamza Shiraz was using loaded raps in their fight.
Still trying to save face, and this is going to be the excuse that keeps him afloat, at least momentarily, until he gets another fight.
Likening Hamza Shiraz to Antonio Margarito and the controversy in what was the Shane Mosley fight with his raps, plaster of Paris, and all of that.
Yeah, he's gonna ride this scooter for a while, at least up until the next fight, but that begs the question, who's gonna be the next fight? When's gonna be the next fight? Because Edgar Berlanga is a free agent, like what we just talked about. He's not attached to anyone.
This is one of the drawbacks of being a free agent. His last fight was on Turkey El Al Sheikh's show, you understand. And Turkey's not going to pay for you to have a tune-up. Turkey's not going to put up big money so that you can have an easy one. Now, if you were at Matchroom, you could have got a nice-sized contract minimum for a tune-up, for a rebound fight.
Because he needs one.
Except that he's not at Matchroom, so Matchroom doesn't have to do anything for him. If you're not going to make a commitment to them, they have no reason to do any business with you.
You who wants buku dollars every time you fight, even when it's against a nobody.
Who's supposed to put the money up? See, this is the part about free agency that guys like Uncle Pete don't seem to understand. There are advantages, there are perks to being attached to a major promotional outfit, but when you're not attached to anyone, no one's attached to you, and God forbid you lose.
Oh, then you're just screwed.
Edgar is still making excuses, accusing Hamza Shiraz of foul play, but I think that if you put Edgar in there with any of the other top 10 super middleweights, any of the other guys in the upper echelon, the exact same thing would happen.
Put him in there with Pacheco. Put him in there with Mobili.
The exact same thing would happen.
Put him in there with Lester Martinez. Hell, put him in there with Steven Nelson.
The exact same thing would happen. I've long maintained that I don't think Edgar Berlanga beats any of the top 10, top 5 super middleweights. He's that bad. That's why I picked Hamza Shiraz to beat him.
So now he's in a very strange place. He insisted on staying a free agent, not re-signing to Matchroom after that fight in Florida.
Fights on a Turkey El Al Sheikh show, loses, but now what is he gonna do? Because he needs a rebound fight. He does need an easy one, but who's supposed to pay for it?
Who's supposed to pay his opponent? Who's supposed to pay the camera crew that shoots all of this? Where is it supposed to happen? On what platform? See, there's a lot more that goes into promotion and promoting a boxing match than the boxing fans realize. There are a lot of details and things that need to be covered, things that they don't understand, so that when they advocate for free agency, this is all the stuff they're not factoring in.
He should be a co-promotional partner.
Morons. Edgar Berlanga is actually a great example of why free agency isn't for everybody. It's not all it's cracked up to be.
It better suits someone like a Canelo Alvarez, who obviously isn't the example for the average boxer.
It's really only useful to a select few, because the majority of boxers, even the very good ones, they need a promoter.
In case you didn't realize.